She walks away crying and John follows her, trying to console her and encourage her. The next day, Lynn returns to work and finds John alone there. The manager is on vacation. She takes care of the animals and prepares their food. John compliments her and takes her to trim the dog's nails, continuing to flirt with her. When Lynn accidentally injures herself, she feels embarrassed and hurts herself unintentionally. John takes her to the clinic where she receives a shot. Young gets upset with John because he feels responsible for the accident. Lynn is surprised that he's so concerned about her. Young becomes tense and goes to get her medication. Lynn leaves the clinic and she takes a walk with John. She's surprised to find out that he wasn't the one who sent her the gift. John comes and takes her hand, revealing that he was the one who sent her the gift. Lynn thanks him and walks with him back to the dorm. Later, Lynn goes to visit her mother. When she learns that she hurt herself, her mother gets upset and tells her to be careful. Lynn is happy that her mother cares about her. The semester ends, and students are supposed to return home. However, Young has winter training with the shooting team and is upset because he won't see Lynn. His friend advises him to confess his feelings before she leaves. However, Young hesitates. The next day, his friend says goodbye to Jin, who's leaving, and tells her he'll miss her. He takes a taxi and tells her to call him when she arrives. Young learns from Lynn's friend that she's staying in the city. When he calls her, she tells him she's continuing to work at the pet store. He overhears John's voice as they agree to watch the fireworks together. He feels jealous and walks away angry. Lynn is seen chasing a dog in the store when John's parents enter and scold her for neglecting her duties, warning her that the dog might escape. John recognizes them and introduces Lynn as his university classmate. Lynn lets them talk while she walks away. She receives a call from her mother, who tells her she won't be able to meet her for New Year's Eve, which upsets Lynn because she wanted her family to be together. She looks at John and his family sadly, before going to Young's dorm and finding him packing his bag. She's surprised to learn that he has winter training and won't be going home. She tries to talk to him, but he doesn't respond, so she leaves to find her boyfriend, feeling upset. When she returns to her dorm, it's empty, and she finds the broken gift from Young. She picks up the pieces from the floor, crying. The next day, she goes to visit her mother in the hospital and waits for her in her office. She's happy to see her mother holding their photo album, but when she opens it, she's surprised to find pictures of her mother with another man and their daughter. Lynn confronts her mother, asking when she divorced her father. Her mother tells her it was 10 years ago. Lynn breaks down, feeling betrayed by her mother for not telling her the truth all these years and not understanding why she abandoned her and her sisters. She cries, trying to explain to her mother how she feels, but Lynn doesn't listen and tells her that she's given up on her and her sisters and doesn't love them anymore. Lynn leaves the hospital crying and wanders the city, reminiscing about her memories with her mother. At night, Young prepares to go to his training with his team. He receives a call from Abu Land, who tells him that Lynn isn't answering her phone, and they don't know where she is. Young gets worried and goes to look for her. He searches everywhere but fails to find her. When she finally answers his call, he scolds her and asks her where she is. She tells him she's at her usual spot and Young rushes there. When he arrives, he finds her crying uncontrollably. Young carries her on his back and walks with her like before. Lynn is drunk and delirious, so Young has to take her to a hotel to sleep. He watches over her while she sleeps. When Lynn wakes up, her brother calls her to check on her. She refuses to tell him that their parents divorced. When she hangs up, she's scared, especially when Young ends up in the same room as her. She quickly gathers her things and leaves, but Young comes out of another room and tells her to wait for him. They go to eat together, and Lynn tells him about her parents' divorce and how she wishes for a normal family. Young is sympathetic and tries to comfort her. Later, Lynn leaves and goes to the pet store where she meets John and asks for some time off without explaining why. She says goodbye to the dogs and leaves, taking the bus with Young back home. When she arrives, she goes straight to her room without talking to anyone. Her father comes in and tells her the truth about their divorce and how they hid it from them because they were young. Lynn cries because her father lied to her all these years and asks to be left alone. The next day, she wakes up to find a message from Young saying he's at training and to call him if she needs anything. Lynn's brother enters her room and surprises her by knowing about their parents' divorce, but not telling her to avoid upsetting her. Lynn is touched by her younger brother's concern for her feelings. On New Year's Eve, Lynn sits with her father and brother to have dinner together. However, she misses her mother and leaves them to go to her room. Her mother sends her a message wishing her a happy new year, but Lynn doesn't respond and feels sad. Suddenly, she sees fireworks in front of her house, which surprises her. She looks down and finds Young beneath her house, waving to her and sending her a message wishing her a happy new year and hoping all her wishes come true. Lynn is delighted and thanks him, enjoying the fireworks all night long. The next day, Lynn wakes up to find her mother at the door, but she doesn't respond and refuses to open it. Her mother comes downstairs, upset, and meets Young on the street, asking to talk to him to explain why she hid the truth from Lynn. She apologizes and asks him to stay by her daughter's side until she feels better. Young promises to do so and goes to their house, bringing Lynn breakfast and taking care of her. Lynn eats happily, and after that she goes out with Young and takes the bus with him. He closes the window to keep her warm and takes her to his house. Her mother is happy to see her and welcomes her warmly. Lynn enjoys her time at their house, feeling like it's her own home. She sees pictures of them when they were young and remembers their memories together, feeling emotional. Young enters her room and finds her crying. He tells her he will always be there for her and will never abandon her. He wants to confess his love for her, but she already knows what he wants to say. Young is surprised and asks her how she knew. Lynn hints that she met her mother and talked to her. Young becomes nervous and takes her out for ice cream. Of course, Lynn's eyes are bigger than her stomach, and she orders 5 for herself alone. When Young tells Lynn that she will be the one held accountable, she retracts her statement and asks for just 1. They sit together and enjoy their time, feeling happy. Afterwards, Lynn returns to her university dorm and starts organizing her things. She goes to meet John at the store, and he is surprised to see her. A customer enters and buys food for his dog. Later, Lynn receives a call from her mother. When Young finishes the call, he starts crying. When Lynn asks him why, he tells her that his wife is in the hospital and their dog has passed away. He lied to her because he didn't want her to get upset. Lynn is saddened by the news and remembers how her mother deceived her by lying to her so she wouldn't get upset. Later, she goes to meet Young and plays with his bike. She rides behind him to drive, but he falls on his shoulder and grimaces in pain. Lynn worries about him and wants to take him to the clinic, but Young asks her to take him to the hospital. When they arrive, he sends a message to her mother to inform her. They go for an X-ray, and the doctor tells him that he's fine, but his shoulder hurts. Young feels embarrassed, but insists he's fine and wants to move his arm. Lynn is surprised and suspicious, thinking he's lying to her, so she continues to hit him for deceiving her. When they leave the room, they find her mother in front of them, who accidentally saw them. She holds Lynn's hand to reconcile with her, but Lynn is still upset with her. Her mother informs them that she invited them for lunch. Lynn goes to change her clothes, and Young tells her he'll leave them alone to talk. After her mother finishes her work, she takes her and they go to eat pizza together. Her mother tells her she still loves her and asks for forgiveness, but Lynn says she hasn't forgiven her. She leaves crying. Later, Lynn meets Young and goes with him to buy a new cup to replace the broken one. The next day, she goes to the pet store and continues to play with the dogs. When she returns to the dorm, her friend confesses to her that she broke the cup because she's trying to impress Young, who likes Lynn, but she's not aware of it. She asks for her help to get closer to Young, but Lynn refuses and leaves her, crying. Later, Young's friend calls Jen and asks her to meet him on the roof. When she's late, he sits on the fence and people think he wants to commit suicide. Jen goes to him and they argue, and he confesses that he likes her and asks her to be his girlfriend. Jen agrees, and they hug, making everyone happy with what happened. At night, Lynn goes to meet Young, and she finds him holding a surprise for her, a bouquet of flowers. He confesses his love for her and moves closer to hug her. Suddenly, she wakes up startled, realizing it was just a dream. She wonders why she's dreaming about her friend and fears she might be developing feelings for him. That's all for today's video. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button and check out our other selection of recaps. Take care.